Hello and welcome back to a whole new stock market where you come and get all your tips and tricks, when to buy, when to sell. I am the shorting savant, Lucas Melby.
And I'm your, I don't even know. I'm your Dogecoin expert, Jakob Tulujun.
I sprung this up on Jacob, but fortunately, Jacob, he's a market watcher. He's an expert. Jacob, what should people be on the lookout now for?
Right now,
myself, I'm recommending the next big stocks to watch are Noodles and Company and Chuck E. Cheese. You know what? Buy up those now.
I can see a lot of people buying into that. I could see people going back to even Blockbuster at this point. They're all about the AMC. Just support your local Blockbuster from, is it Alaska or something?
I think that one actually closed. I think all Blockbusters are done. But you know what's not done? The stock that you probably can't really buy, Disney. Disney always marches on. That's right. This isn't a whole new stock market cast. This is a whole new pod, the podcast where we watch about Disney Channel original movies.
Talk about podcasts, not stocks
and
or cryptocurrencies.
Speaking of marching on, this episode, this was a movie I felt like kept just marching on.
It was a long movie, but it wasn't
like
it was a long movie. How many minutes was it again?
95.
95. So I don't know. I guess maybe that's not.
It's longer than the Jenny Project.
Okay.
But
so it was a longer movie.
Most of them seem to be averaging or skewing towards being at least 90 minutes long, as opposed to being like 80 minutes as they used to be.
I wasn't really bored though during it, or I wasn't disappointed during it. There were some fun parts in it that kept me coming back. Like it was they'd have some like serious stuff for like a little bit, and then it'd be like, oh,
and it's a rare combination that probably can only exist in this movie, where it's about Hanukkah, being a Jewish teen, and some b-ball,
basketball,
in full court miracle. But before we get into that, something else that is a unique thing for us, besides talking about the stock market, which I definitely don't really understand anything about, is some corrections.
Oh.
Because, you know what, while I edit the episode, there's some times where I catch something that, maybe a joke didn't land, I cut that out.
Wow.
Or sometimes we get something wrong, but it just doesn't work out to cut that out.
Oh my.
So I want to come clean, Jacob. In the last episode, when we were talking about the Cheetah Girls, specifically the character Chanel, you said something about Chanel handbags, and I said Chanel's a perfume.
Oh.
Well, we were both correct. Chanel is a fashion boutique. They make clothes and handbags, but also perfume.
Oh my.
So I wanted to get that out there.
Thank you for the credit.
Clear the perfume that was maybe hanging in the air.
We both know women's accessories.
I also did a little more research, and this one is very sad to admit. But Drinka, her name is just Drinka Champagne, not Drinka Champagne.
That's even worse.
I swore I saw somewhere on my phone that it said Drinka, and then the name cut off with like D. So I just assumed it said Drinka
Champagne.
Champagne.
Ending a sentence, Drinka, and then period, and then Drinka.
I don't know.
So you said Drinka.
And
well, she's still Drinka.
Yes,
doesn't it? That's all that matters.
I think we all enjoyed that enough in the last episode that
correction.
If she shows up in Cheetah Girls 2, I'll call her Drinka Champagne there.
Damn straight.
And the last thing I can think of, which is more just kind of an interesting little tidbit for everybody, is that in the Cheetah Girls, this is kind of like a book difference, like a Ring of Endless Light, where in the Cheetah Girls, there was a fifth girl that wasn't in the group.
Stop.
And that was Aqua's sister. So I think maybe partially why Aqua didn't really have any character development is because in the books, she always has a sister around. So they cut her out so then Aqua doesn't get anything. So I thought that was just kind of an interesting little book difference. Maybe that'll be a follow-up podcast.
Her sister's name was Fire.
No, it was something, and now I can't remember. It kind of made sense then why Aqua was called it. But if anything, talking about these corrections now is we can't fact check while we're doing the podcast. No. That technology simply cannot exist. It's not technologically feasible. Exactly. So I could try to look up what Aqua's sister name is. I won't.
We don't have the ability.
We'll never mention it again.
No.
I will bring it up in the next episode.
Here's a correction of our correction.
I've had enough Cheetah Girls where
for a lifetime.
We'll hold off until the sequels later on. All right. So, as we mentioned a little shortly ago, Full Court Miracle, a movie about Jewish basketball players that do not make a Hail Mary shot at any point in the movie.
As the title suggests, is very big letdown.
They do not stretch out their arm Michael Jordan style.
I do think the girl the one that says we're going to need a full court miracle or something to win?
Is that name happened,
dropped maybe once?
If that happened, I didn't hear it.
I thought it was maybe dropped.
I was not giving this movie my greatest attention, so let's just get on with it.
We'll just pretend it happened.
So we open on some city streets of Philadelphia.
Yes.
We're in a Jewish neighborhood, because we can see that because there are very conspicuous signs that seem to have been placed there for the purposes of the movie that have like Hebrew lettering and then just say eggs.
It was like a chicken. It was a chicken on the sign.
And we meet our main character, Alex Schlotsky.
Schlotsky.
Which I'm sure sounds very good into the microphones, all those S's and consonants. And then also Julie, who's his female friend.
Yes.
Spoiler alert, they do not kiss at the end of the movie.
She really, I don't know. Like,
she is, we always say this about a lot of people. She's hardly a character, but she is really hardly a character.
Yeah.
And then they bring her back in a way that I thought, like, oh, are they going to kiss at the end of this movie? But they didn't.
No.
Does she add a lot to it? No, but she doesn't detract by having to be a forced romance kind of thing.
Yes.
They're on their way to school, and being in a Jewish neighborhood, they also go to a Jewish academy where Alex meets up with his friends who are, I think one's holding a basketball.
Yeah, they're spinning the ball on their finger. They're walking up into school.
Oh, this is funny. My notes say his friends holding basketball, wearing basketball. I meant to say that they're all wearing yarmulkes.
Oh, okay.
Because this is, I don't know if it's probably...
traditional.
It's not quite Hasidic because the rabbi, one of the teachers is a rabbi.
Hair.
He doesn't have, the classic
jury curls.
I don't know what they're called. I don't know if that's offensive what Jacob just said. I was going to say dreadlocks. They're definitely not dreadlocks. But yeah, they're more traditional. They do bring up kind of kosher guidelines and stuff like that, but they're not full on Hasidic or anything of the sort. Speaking to this rabbi, he's one of the teachers at the school, and they're in the classroom talking about Hanukkah. Which they actually say here. And in Disney Plus's description, it is spelled as CH, like Hanukkah.
Okay.
But most of the rest of the movie, people just say like Hanukkah. As us being non-Jews would say.
They don't really, like, there's a couple parts in the movie where they have like, where they like do like some of that kind of stuff.
Well, that's probably when they're like actually reading like Jewish texts or the Torah or something.
Like, all like that.
I do not have a lot of Jewish knowledge, and this movie... I kind of feel bad being like, this movie's fine. I didn't really love it.
Like a challenge?
Because we did have a YouTuber comment, or a YouTube comment at one point, where a guy says, what are you going to do? Full Court Miracle. So I can only assume he's maybe a Jewish teen or...
Yeah.
So, like, I'm sure if I was Jewish, this would be a really cool movie, because there's not a lot of movies, I feel, about, like, Jewish
representation,
teenage life, especially about basketball. But we get a fun little daydream from Alex while he is in class, where it is a pretty long daydream as well, where he's imagining himself, as they're talking about the history of Hanukkah, he is on a court in presumably ancient Jerusalem, where he is bouncing a raggedy basketball with some raggedy clothes, and his friends are all in robes, and they're going up against their rivals, who will later learn is the team, the Warriors.
It's like weird, dusty like views where they like get like...
the camera, it looks bad because there's like a smoke machine running, and that seems to
look dusty or whatever.
I don't know if there's some weird filter or some kind of overexposure thing but everything just kind of looks washed out and bad.
They're trying to make it look like they're like in a dust storm, though. Like that's the whole.
But with like the smokiness and kind of bright lights of it, it reminds me of the daydreams that Frankie Muniz had in Miracle in Lane 2, which were very goofy. And this is goofy, but I don't think it's meant to really be goofy. Overall, this movie feels less kind of goofy like other Disney Channel movies.
Yeah.
But they're playing against some Roman centurion looking guys. And
which are the Warriors.
Yeah, the Warriors, and they're captained by Tyler. Captain Tyler, I believe that's an old anime of some kind. Wow. But then we get to cut to reality with an actual reality check. Alex's team, they're playing a game of basketball. Their team is called the Lions, and they are getting absolutely destroyed.
By like 20, 30 points. Who knows? A lot. Too many points.
And their coach, who repeatedly says he teaches algebra, is really no help to them at all.
I don't even know why he's their coach. Like, they should have had the history coach as their the history teacher.
He did seem to respect the ball.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. Oh, well.
So this is where we meet Tyler in actual reality. We get the connection of him being in the dream as well. He says, Alex, hey, how do you feel about being on the worst team in basketball history?
And then one of his buddies like, it's only a game.
Yeah, and then he brings up, hey, we'll see you at the tourney where you'll lose.
There's like one point where one of the guys gets ejected too, right? They set that up.
Yeah.
And one of the guys like goes off at one of the referees.
The little fun details about all of his friends, I'll say, probably are not going to be reflected in my notes very well.
But we'll just point this guy out here.
I honestly only have probably written down like 3 or 4 characters' names in this whole movie.
Well, I just want to bring this one up here because it was fun. Because the guy, like he leads the league apparently in like getting kicked out of the games.
He's got so many technical fouls.
Yeah. So later in the movie, he learns to harness this rage and to focus on some girl, which helps him, to keep calm. And this girl notices him.
Fucking hormones, man. Yeah. You gotta channel that energy somehow.
This girl that he really fancies hears him yell out her name during the middle of a game. Rebecca Bloomberg. Yeah. Some other kid wanted to also focus on this Rebecca Bloomberg to harness his energy, but they're like, no, use your butt.
This might make a little more sense later on in the movie. It maybe makes you excited to listen to the rest, but we'll see when we get there. Speaking of little details that really don't matter,
there's a lot.
Alex makes a comment to his friends like, I'm getting a 200 gig hard drive for Hanukkah.
Like, that's a lot, though, even like now.
No, it's not.
Well, I don't know. I mean, like a terabyte's a lot, right? 2 terabytes.
Let's see. Here, let me. I got my laptop that we're recording on right here. I'll pull
2 terabytes is like a lot.
A terabyte is like...
Well, I mean, like 20 years ago, though.
Okay, I'm just being clear. Let's look up on the computer we're recording on right now.
Yes.
Which is just about 10 years old. This computer has almost a 700 gig hard drive.
Okay.
To flex on all that.
Yeah, but like 10 years later.
Hopefully get a new laptop, though, because as I said, 10 years old, kind of old. Probably won't improve the audio quality of the podcast or anything, but it will work better.
Maybe.
Can I get it for Hanukkah? But one of his friends, it's kind of interesting because I'm sure this applies because it applies in Christianity, and I'm sure it would apply to Jews about Hanukkah, that one person's like, hey, Hanukkah is not about all this materialistic stuff. It's about the story of Judah Maccabee.
Who said, was that one of the teachers that said that?
One of his friends.
One of the friends did.
Yeah.
Judah Maccabee. I've never heard.
It's about the miracles of lights. And I'm like, I don't really know anything about Hanukkah.
Wait,
so.
Was that the deal, the miracle of lights? Is that why they made such a big deal about that?
I believe that's kind of the comparison they're supposed to draw. I thought they were going to play it up more. But
I think it was played out pretty big in the end. Like, it's like the main
that is fair,
part of the movie, yeah.
So then Alex is talking to his friends who are all on the basketball team with him about the Liberty Tournament, which is what the Warriors were talking about.
Which makes sense because they are in Philadelphia.
Yep. And so
Liberty Bell.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But his friends don't seem to really care too much about basketball. No. They all suck.
They're all like studying. So that was one of the things that happened. I think when we saw them losing by a lot in the first game. Like, the coach was, like, doing nothing, but all the other kids were, like, studying for their SATs. Like, that's one thing they bring up later on.
Well, not even their SATs, their PSATs, so the practice tests. So, yes, I think it's a stereotype, but, I mean, it's a stereotype that they put in this movie where a lot of, especially at the school, it seems a lot of the Jewish kids' parents are professionals. Alex's mom is a doctor. His dad's either...
a realtor?
Yeah, real estate. He might even be, like, a real estate developer because he, like, has a condo or whatever. But But basically, they're big people. They're very serious about their professions, and they want their children to be serious. So his friends are kind of like, hey, basketball's like a fun thing we do, but we're not going to make it in the NBA.
He's taking it very seriously.
Where Alex he wants to make it in the NBA, but he's like 5 foot something
he wants
at 14 years old.
Julius Irving, Dr. J.
He's basically the shortest of all of his friends.
Yeah.
But he's the best on the team. But
he has the biggest of dreams.
That's not necessarily saying a whole lot. Speaking of Alex's parents, back at home, we get the kind of definitely classic, by this point, this being our, 40-something episode, where the parents are like, hey, sometimes you just got to give up on your dreams. I know you want to be a basketball player, but what if you were a doctor? And I'm like, oh, no. Poor Alex, having a rich family that would allow him to probably do well and focus in school and kind of do whatever he wants without too much concerns about paying for stuff.
So hard.
And I thought it was unrelatable just because they were Jewish kids. But Alex, of course, is very serious about
basketball.
Yep. So he's talking to his, I thought it was his principal, but it's his history teacher who's also a rabbi. And he asks if he could help the team get a new coach. And he's like, yeah, the current coach sucks. The rabbi's saying this. Yeah. But he says Alex needs to find the new coach. And he's something
like,
about...
You need me to find the new Judah Maccabee?
Yeah, something about Judah Maccabee.
I outside of this movie, I've never heard that term before.
I've heard of the Maccabees. And they talk about the Maccabees here, but I guess Judah Maccabee must be like the leader of the Maccabees or something. So he's shooting some hoops with his friends at like a court by like a river or something.
In the hood.
Yeah, it's not the nicest looking place, but they see a guy who's got mad game. He's
like dunking, doing 360s.
He's swishing and swooshing all the hoops.
A lot of swooshing.
So Alex kind of saddles up to him and is like, hey man, you're pretty good.
Yeah, he's like, let me rebound for you. And then he like starts like, the guy would just shoot. He's not saying anything. And then he's starting to throw the ball back. And then at one point he's like, he holds the ball, and then he's like, you want me to dunk your ass through the hoop? Because I will. And he's like, no, how about we do like a one-on-one shot thing?
Yeah,
and
a shootout.
You can tell me what your name is. Like, that was the whole thing. He's like, tell me what your name is. Tell me what your name is.
But he's like,
nah. He gets the ball back, and then he just runs away.
So yeah, then he leaves, drives away in his van.
But we see the license plate.
But not so much the numbers, but specifically that it's a special plate for a college in Virginia.
So Alex, the Ferris Bueller of his time, goes onto the interwebs to use the interwebs.
Did Ferris Bueller go on the web?
Yeah, he like hacked the computers at school.
Oh, okay.
To, like,
I was like, are you thinking of War Games or The Last Starfighter?
Well, that's also War Games is on Netflix. That's a good movie too.
Yeah, it's okay. But he finds his college's website and he's like, oh, he must be on the basketball team or was recently. So they find his profile.
Yeah, what was his name again?
Lamont Carr. And he's good. Check out these stats.
Like we later find out his stat, 27 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists, which was like really good. That's like
whatever, man. I watched most of The Last Dance. If you don't got MJ numbers, it's nothing. If you're not scoring 60 points in a game, what are you even doing?
Why'd he even play?
But his nickname was the Hammer.
Oh, is that what it was?
That was Judah Maccabee's nickname.
Oh, that's true.
So they're like, is he the reincarnated ghost of Judah Maccabee?
He has the same amount of brothers.
Which I guess when I said this movie wasn't goofy, this is a goofier aspect. But like these kids kind of believe that he is Judah Maccabee.
And like Alex plays it off that he doesn't, but doesn't he also believe it? Or maybe he doesn't.
I don't know, man.
But he plays off to him later on that he doesn't. He's like, well, the friends, they all believe you're like a ghost, but not me. So I think he did. I think he definitely did.
So they find him again at the court, and Alex takes him aside and says, hey, I know who you are. He's like, what the fuck is your problem,
creepy-ass kid. And he's like, here's the deal. I'll give you money. And he gives him like $4 or $5 bills. He's like, this is before, and I'll get you after. And then he's like, fuck that. But then he's like, well, tomorrow, like 4 o'clock.
Yeah, so $20, he says, gets you 1 hour. Yes. So then the next day, they basically just work on conditioning.
They run, what are they, 755 or
1755?
1755. So you got to run across and back the court 17 times.
Doing some burpees or some shit.
Conditioning, which is what he says. He says, the only thing I need to know about a bad team is like we got to get you conditioned first.
I mean, the butt, he's dying out there.
No,
he says,
dying.
Is this practice for having a heart attack? Which is the best line in the movie.
And later on, he also offers Judah Maccabee. If we say Judah Maccabee, we mean Lamont Carr.
No disrespect.
He offers Lamont $5 or something. He's like, or I don't know, 10. He's like, here's 10 for never having to hear 1755 again. And then he takes the money and he shoves it in his shirt and he says, 1755?
Yeah, this movie's okay sometimes.
Yeah, it was good.
Speaking of stereotypical DCOM stuff with the parents, there's a couple of throwaway things about the mom being a bad cook. She makes some horrible cookies.
Really bad cookies. At one point, she's like, we're going to have waffles this morning. And then we see like her dump out like frozen Eggos onto a plate. And Alex is like, oh.
Yeah, like in You Wish. He hates frozen waffles too.
Something about frozen waffles in Disney. Like there must really be against Eggo and...
Disney's got some stock in toaster strudel or something. So we see Lamont is living out of a van, van underneath a bridge somewhere.
Like a troll.
And he's writing a letter that we put the pieces together because then he looks at a picture where he's sending money away to
his high school sweetheart.
Yeah, we later learn it's not his wife. They're not married. Whoa, very brave Disney Channel.
Yeah, but they have a child.
His wife, or not wife, girlfriend and son, who we later learn are still living in Virginia. So one of the kids starts to ask him some questions, basically to see if he's actually the reincarnation of Judah Maccabee. Yes. And his answers kind of convinced him, because it's like, he's got the same number of brothers. His dad is kind of close name to Judah's dad. Yeah, all right, shit, here's my money, man.
And the whole brother deal, I don't know if it convinced him or not, or like what the deal was, but like he had a brother that died or something. He had 5, then it was down to 4. And then they were all like, oh, well, maybe...
But the friends quickly aren't happy about paying him. They're like, why can't we just have our parents pay?
Yes.
Because they got that bling.
Alex is like, no, they can never know we have somebody that's
Well, he even says, I don't want my mom to know because his mom is super anti-basketball. Yeah. Wants him to be a lawyer or a doctor.
Yeah.
What a bitch.
At one point, she is kind of a bitch. To just drop his basketball stuff to do like an internship kind of thing.
Well, yeah, that actually comes up right here where his mom tells him that he made it into the job shadow program at the hospital.
And how did he make it in there if he had no idea he was even going to be in it? She applied for him. It's
called nepotism.
She applied for him.
But it's going to be at the same time as his practice. Yeah. Oh, man, it's the big practice.
The big practice. So he's like, nah, I ain't going to do it. And he doesn't do it.
But remember his friend Julie?
Yeah.
He says, hey, Julie, you like doctors, right? How about you go? And she says, okay.
Yeah. So that's
you go to practice. And then he's like,
that was solved.
Oh, I'll tell my mom or figure out something where my mom doesn't find out. But then we later see them both together at the hospital, Julie and his mom, and I don't know, she didn't care.
Yeah.
But Alex either lied or just was like, well, let Julie do it.
I am Julie, he tells his mother. I am Julie.
Julie, we got a link. We're able to pull this together. So then Lamont, his van starts in classic movie fashion. If you got a broken down car, it just has to smoke and steam out of the hood. But there's a technician there who says, I'll need $300 to fix that.
I don't remember that part, I guess.
I think we were talking about stocks during this part about how it's fucked up that Robin Hood didn't let people trade.
Yeah.
Or purchase or whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah, they didn't let them buy any more GameStop.
Eat the rich.
I hate to see it.
Anyways, the team starts... I kind of wish I paid more attention, but the team, you got to raise money. And your team, what do? Maybe a car wash? Maybe a festival like they did in Gotta Kick It Up?
Yeah.
Or a coffee stand.
Is that what they did?
Yes, I would trust kids to just make me coffee and, put some caramel syrup or whipped cream.
A lot in the movie. I feel like the dad drinks it a lot, maybe. Well, the teachers do.
Parents, drink coffee. But then I think it's something where the mom finds out he's doing it, so that's kind of a bad thing. So that then she finds out that they're doing it to raise money for Lamont. And
where were they selling it? Just on the street?
In front of some building. So I think somebody called the mom, and she's like, Alex is doing what?
Selling drugs on the corner.
The mom is like, I don't think we can't have practice on the streets because they haven't been practicing in the school. They've been practicing at that Riverside court. So the mom's coming off as like a little racist because we didn't mention it, but his name's Lamont Carr. He's a basketball player. He is African American. But the rabbi proposes, hey, Alex, I'll kind of smooth things over. I'm going to invite you and your family as well as Lamont over for dinner.
Yeah, a very interesting dinner.
I think they're this maybe was the first night of Hanukkah.
Yeah, I remember seeing 2 candles at one point.
Yeah, but I don't think that was this scene, so maybe this was the first night.
But aren't they lighting one, though?
They're lighting 2 candles, but they aren't lighting any on the menorah. Because I think the menorah was next to the candles. this maybe means something if we have Jewish people in the audience, but
we're sorry for.
And they're having some food, and
unknowing.
Lamont likes it, and then he's like,
for some milk.
Give me some milk.
And they're all like, they all drop their plates, and food falls out of their mouths, and they're like, "That's not kosher."
Well, they say we don't have dairy after meat, but then the rabbi pops in and he's like, "Yeah, it's some ancient thing. It doesn't make any logical sense, but hey, man, Deuteronomy, it's a bitch."
And he's like, "All right, water."
And then we get a little, and I thought this was interesting because we were talking about Uncut Gems, which is obviously a very Jewish movie.
Very Jewish.
Jesus Christ. It's a very Jewish oriented movie, and it involves a lot with basketball, not just because Adam Sandler's character is betting on basketball, but also he goes to a family gathering and they're all watching basketball.
A lot of
and I'm like, well, there must be some connection between Jewish people and basketball, and I guess they bring it up here in the dinner that a lot of the founding teams of the NBA were Jewish teams, like the Knicks and whatnot.
But they had like Jewish and stuff like in their names, like in their actual like names of their teams.
Well, yeah, but I think
I can't remember.
I mean, maybe the Knicks, maybe that's a Yiddish term or something.
The Jewish 76ers. It was something like that.
Yes, the Jewish Timberwolves.
Yeah.
The Jewish Lakers.
It was something like that, though.
Yeah, I think it was like a reference to like their maybe pre-NBA like Jewish basketball league kind of thing. Hopefully we're not offending anything.
This is what the movie said.
But then the rabbi proposes that, hey, if it's a problem that he's coaching in the streets, how about he just, crazy idea, I know, how about he just coaches at the school?
The gym.
And the mom's like, And then Lamont says, well, I'm actually trying to make it on the 76ers. So he declines, and the mom, we see her, and she's like, "Oh yes," and I'm like, "You are the worst."
She's a bitch. We're never really meant to like her. She does make it to the final game.
Yeah, no, there's a whole smooth over thing at the end where she's like, "Well, you won the tournament, Alex. Maybe you can make it in the NBA."
Talks to some basketball player later on, and asks about Alex's height. And he's like, he's got big
He's like,
dreams.
didn't you see Space Jam? There's that one short guy who makes, he makes the little red alien guy really good.
Oh, that's true. Spud Webb.
There you go. I didn't know his name.
He's dunks. He won like the dunk contest. He's like 4 feet tall and he's dunking.
Anyways, but then the rabbi then further proposes, what if we just take it as a day-to-day thing?
Yeah.
So then he agrees. So I guess the school is kind of paying him some amount of money.
Yeah, and he falsifies his address.
Yeah, we'll see the results of that later on. And then Alex's dad, who was kind of earlier in the morning, earlier in the movie was like, hey, Alex, sometimes you got to give up on your dreams. But then he tells the mom, Alex should be able to pursue his dreams of being a basketball player.
Yeah. Did Alex already sell his Dr. J card by this point?
Yeah, I don't care, though.
Well, there's some point where
he gets it back. He literally gets it back.
Yes,
so there's no consequences for Alex.
His parents find out that he sold it, and then he gets it back as like a Hanukkah gift.
But yeah, there's so many people in this movie being like, shouldn't you be a lawyer? Oh, we're going to be a doctor. Well, let's work about our PSATs. And he's literally 14 years old. Which is kind of weird because they bring up that we've lost like 2 years in a row. But if he's 14, that would make him traditionally like a freshman. So, I don't know.
Who knows?
Maybe there's not enough players that they let 8th graders play on the team or something.
Who cares? What else?
You're correct. I do not care.
Irrelevant.
Actually, here, I'm clicking it into my IMDb Goofs page.
He was actually 17 when they recorded this movie. He was held back 2 years. That's what it was.
Yeah. The team starts to make some serious improvement, but I guess they still lose the game. We see them. No, we're just seeing them practice at this point.
Yeah, but they go from being the worst team ever to just the Judah Maccabees.
Yeah. Well, here the rabbi sees Lamont coaching, and he comes over and gives him a little inspirational coaching story about a little team called the Maccabees. Oh. So then Lamont rolls up. He's like, I'm going to tell you about Judah Maccabee. Let's do the full court press now.
Yes.
So then Alex follows Lamont one day after practice. He's on a bike.
He steals his buddy's mountain bike, BMX bike, and a helmet.
I think Alex had a bike earlier in the movie. It's quite possible.
But the BMX bike was faster. It could keep
Maybe.
up.
Or he sold his bike and I wasn't paying attention. Who knows? It does not matter.
Who cares?
But he sees that he is living out of his van down by the river.
He follows him for miles and miles. And he sees him at one point out of the mirror, but then he hides behind like a tree or something.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Master tail artist.
Stalker. Well, yeah, he follows him down to the van, and he's like creeping in the van, but like we don't see him. We saw Lamont sitting there, and he heard like a noise, and then he disappears, and then he like startles Alex from behind.
Lamont says, yeah, I'm trying to make it big in basketball so I can support my family back in Virginia.
And Alex is like, just a bunch of the guys thought you were a ghost. I just wanted to see if you just like disintegrated or something when you left here, or like what the deal was.
So then he says, well, you want to stay for dinner? So then they eat something we don't actually...
Waffles.
From a distance, it looks like there's a syrup bottle on the table, but we don't actually see it.
Who knows?
There's one thing Alex eats and it looks like a chip or something.
There's like something cooking though. He has like a grill.
Yeah, it's
a bomb.
He's camping out basically.
Yeah, living in the van. He's like, just don't tell the boys. I know you're cool with it.
But Alex is like, man, you're just living the life. You're pursuing your dream. And he's like, Alex, I'm living out of my van underneath the bridge.
And he like shows him like, I think this son and he's like, this is my high school sweetheart.
I mean, that is a very child thing to do, especially a child with like as privileged of a life as Alex has. Be like, I wish I could live out of a van down by the river.
It's like sometimes to make big dreams, you got to make big sacrifices.
So
that
then,
was the message.
All right, well, there's messages in this movie, apparently.
Yeah.
So as Jacob said, the rabbi and the school's principal find out that he falsified his address information.
Well, yeah, so the rabbi sees his van parked outside, and he's looking in the back. And he sees it. He's clearly
there's like a bed in there.
Yes.
But like some people just have beds in their van. I also think
he's trying to protect him.
The rabbi is cool with it.
Yeah, so because she's trying to say, I went by his house and there's nobody there or something. I don't know.
Well, the address did not exist.
Okay, that's what it was. And then so she's going to stalk him after the school day, follow him back. So the rabbi gives a heads up, right?
Yeah, he lets Alex knows.
So then Alex has
with his infinite resources.
Yeah, like there's a lot going on in this movie. Alex has to reach out to his father, who has.
But I think he like goes home.
Yeah.
So like it's still like all happening within an afternoon, like within literal like 2 hours
he lives
or
next
something.
Door. So he goes home, talks to his dad. He's like, Dad, I know this condo, whatever. You don't have anybody that fills it. I might need somebody that fill it. They're not going to be able to pay you.
Schlotsky condos.
Yes, yeah. He has his condos. And Dad's like, well, that's exactly what I need to fill my thing. But he's like cool with it. He like gives him the keys. And then
he's cool with it even before he finds out it's Lamont.
Yeah. So he gives him the keys, and Alex leaves a little note on Lamont's car, which says,
you're going to be followed by the principal.
Go to this address, you're going to be followed, and do not lose her. So we see him taking off. She's like hiding in like her car, but we see her pop up in like a disguise. And she follows him, and at one point, he sees her in the mirror, and she's like ducking down and like hiding. But eventually, they make it to the...
it's a very elaborate sequence of events.
They eventually make it there, and... he goes inside, and Alex, like, opens the door quick, gives him the keys, and says, open up in 5 seconds. So he's like, the fuck? So then we see the teacher looking at him throughout the window. She's trying to put her hood, or I don't know. She pushes a wrong button, which makes her
all right,
convertible top.
We don't need all of those details. She sees him go into the condo, so she's like, well, he must live there.
And then she gets splashed with water.
Yeah,
the top of her car is down.
And then she's all muddy.
I really like that scene. It was like a chase scene. I really enjoyed it.
That is the most Jacob has paid attention to any movie we've ever watched.
I really liked it. It was a good scene.
So then within the condo...
it's pimped out. It is legit.
In Jacob's opinion.
It's nice. It's like... So on the outside, it looks like a real dump.
It looks like a set from the future world of the Jet Jackson movie.
Yeah. It looks like a real dump from the outside. He like drives into the hood, finds this weird like factory building, but inside it's really nice.
It's called industrial.
Yeah.
But inside he's... Alex, and then his dad comes out mysteriously and be like, oh, ha, ha. But he's like all cool with it because he's got hoop dreams
they do
too.
Cool like handshakes. They do cool.
And
shakes.
They work out some deal because Lamont says, obviously I can't pay for this.
Paint.
But he says, I'll finish the place up, spruce it up, because it looks like shit right now. And we actually never see the place change at all.
No, shame.
It's very nice of the Schlotskys to put up Lamont like that.
Schlamonskys.
But what's not nice is that Alex got a C- on his history
good,
test.
which equates to an F.
Yeah, it's later said he's failing history, but his mom sees him bring home her papers specifically that says C-.
Wouldn't a C- bring his grade up if it's beyond
I
an
don't
F?
know. As I said, nothing matters. But she's talking to the rabbi and saying, clearly he can't play basketball and study at the same time.
So their next game, Alex has to sit out.
But before that happens, Lamont leads the team because he's been calling the kids dog and his dogs, and they're like, "What?
What does
How
that mean?
dare you? You were making us run so much, and now you're calling us dogs." And he says, "No, it's like cool in basketball."
My brother. He's like, it means my brother.
So then he's leading them, and they're all barking like dogs, and it is super cringy.
It's cool
because these are all like the whitest, pastiest,
nerdy,
lamest
Jewish
looking kids. And they're all like, we're the dogs, yes.
I'm the big dog.
But yes, he's hyping everybody up, and he says, as the team, you're going to let Alex sit this game out because he is failing history.
So they all leave, and he's like sitting there crying.
I thought they were doing good in this game. We later hear that they actually lost, but Alex is in the stands, and he's talking to, hey, Julie's still in this movie. And he does something to make Julie mad. And then it's like, oh, are we supposed to care about the relationship? So this is where I was like, are they going to kiss at the end? But they don't. But Julie still shows up to hold a sign that says, miracles can happen. Scratch that. Miracles do happen. And a miracle happens because Alex is at home, moping about not being able to play. But then his friends roll up, basketball in hand. Actually, maybe not basketball in hand, because they say, hey, you need to study. You need to hit them books. But Alex says, but basketball.
Basketball?
So in a super lame sequence, his friends quiz him while he is dribbling and juking around them. And his room is massive. And he's got a bed that looks like it's made out of pillars from a temple or something.
Yeah, it was a really weird bed. At one point, he throws the basketball. Well, they're quizzing him. He throws the basketball. It goes above his bed, and it's just gone forever. He loses his balls on top of his bed.
Well, and they're all helping him study because the rabbi teacher said he can do a makeup test.
Yes, so like
when it comes time to take that test,
he also dribbles a basketball.
He says, "Is it okay? Sorry, that actually maybe was an offensive voice to do. Excuse me, can I
pretend like it?" So what he does,
he says, "Is it okay if I just pretend to dribble a ball?"
So at first he spins it on his finger though.
It is very cringy.
Like he spins the ball on his finger, and he's like twirling on his finger, and then he pushes it up in the air, and then he just starts dribbling and dribbling and dribbling. And that's how he does the whole test. He's dribbling with his right hand, and he's taking the test with his left hand. So he's a lefty. We just learned that.
Or he's ambidextrous, because Alex is the best.
Yes.
So then the team's like, where's Alex at practice? And Lamont's like, hey, whatever, he's taking a test or something. So then Lamont gives them, we get a backbeat of basketball dribbling and kind of like,
cool.
wicka, wicka, wicka. And he's basically doing beat poetry, motivational speeches for them.
This wasn't the dreidel song, though. That was later on.
No, but this is where, as Jacob mentioned in what maybe sounded like a fever dream at the beginning, where he says, hey, you were like the hook shot guy. You should just think hook. Hey, you foul out a lot. Well, maybe you should channel that energy for the girl you got boners for all the time.
Yes.
And then he calls the kid the butt.
You got a butt. And he's like, what the hell does that mean? I want to think about Rebecca, Brunson, whatever her name is.
Yeah, I bet you do. And her butt. But he says no. And he's like, you just hit people with your butt and so you can get rebounds or something.
Yep, exactly.
Maybe to basketball players, that makes sense. I don't know.
100%.
Alex gets a B+ on his test, which I guess now means he's not failing.
He's good now. Yeah, he's fine.
Hey, he's not taking an algebra test, so he doesn't need to worry about how it averages out, but B+ is good enough.
Yeah.
So he's back in, but then Lamont gets called up to the Sixers because he played a pickup game with his friend from the NBA.
Yeah.
So his friend from the NBA made a call and was like, oh, their player's injured. You got a 10-day contract.
10-day contract. I wonder how much he would make in that 10 days.
Probably not a lot.
$50K maybe?
I mean, rookie players, they get signed to pretty small,
they're like millions.
low string rookie players that like don't play at all. They probably get like
a couple $100,000.
Yeah, like 100,000 or 200,000 for like a whole season.
So he probably got like 10, 20 grand.
Yeah,
who knows?
Maybe
he has some money.
He got a. But
he was
they paid his van bill.
He was only a backup though too. He was only like signed on.
So
to be
yeah,
a backup.
so that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. But he made his dream though. He made it to the NBA.
Yeah, but you know what? Sometimes you got to let go of dreams, Jacob.
Yeah.
Don't both of us know that?
So yeah, like we see him like icing his knees and bitching about his knees all the time. We see scars on his knees.
Yep, that's very important.
Well, it kind of is because that's I guess that's kind of his reason why he eventually doesn't chase that dream is because of his knees. He's like,
well, he finds. I mean, yeah, he's probably whatever. Who fucking cares? Moving on. Important thing here is Alex is pissed about him leaving, even though he knows. He's trying to like support his girlfriend and son back home. And Alex says, think about your family and following your dreams. And he's like, I am thinking about my
Alex
family.
Is a real prick.
But then it kind of gave the impression that Alex was saying his family was actually the basketball team. And he was leaving them behind. He was like, I have a son, Alex.
He's really giving him shit.
You don't know anything about living in poverty. You thought it was cool that I lived out of my van.
Man, you wanted to join me. Give up your temple bed for the bed in the back of a van.
So the mom's still a bitch because she's like, I can't approve. I don't know if she's on the PTA or something, but I can't approve the school paying him to be a full-time coach. That's crazy. So that means there's not a way for him to stay and not play the 10 days for the Sixers or whatever.
Yeah.
So then here in my notes, I wrote, Alex gets a motivational speech from the rabbi, and I did not listen to what it was about at all.
No, I don't remember either.
Probably some stuff drawing on like ancient Jewish.
Judah Maccabee. You found your Judah Maccabee, use the light, follow it.
Yeah, there's probably like half of the conversations I didn't listen to in this movie were probably about Judah Maccabee. So then it's the day of the Liberty tourney, but the team does not have a coach, but then they get their old coach who sucks to sub in for them.
But I don't think is he coaching?
No, and he's not even really there at first. No. Alex is kind of their coach. He's leading their whole rah, rough. Yeah, primetime players kind of thing. There hasn't actually been a ton of basketball up to this point, but then we get at least maybe like 3 games shoved into a montage.
Yes, we did get all like the 5-10 minutes of just maybe 5 minutes of like basketball. Not
even. And all that happened, I wrote, was like pretty incomprehensible to like what was actually happening.
Basically what they're showing is that the Lions are also progressing through the tournament with the Warriors.
Yeah.
And eventually they just match up in the championship game.
And to get into that game, there is one dramatic moment where the clock runs out, but there's a penalty, so Alex gets to take two free throws, and the team's down by 1 point.
Yeah, so he ties it up on his first one. Then there's just a long, like, slow-mo. It hits in, they win.
And then they bark because they're the Lions. So then I wrote, more bullshit with Mom. She asks Alex, what does basketball mean to you?
Oh, my God.
And then I didn't really listen to what he said, because I don't care. We get a Jewish rap song that plays during the Lions walkout. But then they do this dance that I think Lamont taught them.
Yeah.
And it goes on for a really long time. They're like spinning around, and it's super lame. They look really stupid, but the crowd loves it. They think they're so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds me of in elementary school, there was always a talent show at my elementary school, and there was always the fifth graders who were kind of the seniors of elementary schools.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, they're the MCs. They're going to do the talent show. And I tried out to be an MC, and I don't know, either it was too competitive or they never actually had more than 2 people try out. But me and the guy I tried out with were also, basically there was 4 MCs instead of 2 MCs. And I remember, I think it was the movie Honey, starring Jessica Alba, which we watched in gym class because my gym class teacher liked it so much. And it's kind of a step up kind of dance movie thing.
Yeah.
And the ending thing where it had like the people from the different acts and then the MCs, we did like a choreographed dance from Honey.
Oh,
and I remember thinking it was like so cool. but then my mom or dad videotaped it, so I watched
it. Like,
and the way it started out is it was the four of us as like the MC. We were probably wearing like backwards hats or some shit.
Oh my god!
And we were walking.
Where is this content?
Funny story about following up with that. The way we were supposed to start off is we were like all four standing shoulder to shoulder, and we were supposed to be like doing like fist bumps to the right and left of us. But in the footage, you think it could just be like walking straight ahead, just doing it like effortlessly. But in the footage, I'm just looking down directly at my hand to make sure like I'm hitting it, so it just looks really lame. But the guy I did, who was like my partner of the four of us, in like high school, I think he said, "Hey, do you have like the tape of that? I really like to see that for nostalgia or whatever, and I'll rip it or whatever."
Who was it?
Dan Caduce.
Okay,
if that's meaningful to nobody who listens to the podcast, but he was. I don't know if he was going to like rip it. I thought I was going to get the tape back. So I was basically trying to find...
So he never gave it back to you?
No, which is very funny through what happens. But I was basically just trying to track down based on like the year. It's like, well, this year I was in 5th grade. So May to December. So then whatever. I'm like, it should be in this time frame. But I gave him the tape and it wasn't on there. But what was like Christmas Day morning with my family that year.
And he kept that tape?
He did. And
what?
It's funny
because...
You
ever like reached out to him about it?
I think he messaged me on Facebook years later being like, yeah, it's pretty fun. I saw that tape. And I'm like, yeah, I guess it's kind of funny. But I mean, whatever. I don't have a VCR anyway to play it. For a while, or for a long time, I had a bathrobe. Me and my brothers all got bathrobes one year for Christmas.
So that was
So I was wearing a bathrobe in this video. That probably wasn't like the best fitting either, because maybe I was, like hitting a growth spurt or something. And then that year, my mom had gotten us this present. It was this big box that sat in our front porch for a long time. So there was all this anticipation with me and my brothers being like, "Oh, what is it?" We're like, "Oh, maybe it's like a new computer," and we were just like going crazy. And what it ended up being was kind of black, kind of made to look like cast iron, but it was like plastic, and it was a fake fireplace. So basically, it was just like a fake fireplace, glorified space heater. And so we're like, "Oh, that's cool, right?" So this guy remarked, he's like, "Yeah, it was you in a bathrobe being like disappointed in a Christmas gift on this video." And then that heater broke down, within like a year of us getting it. So it was kind of a big disappointment. But now, because my mom was in our old house, we had a fireplace that she really liked, and then we had moved, so she missed that. But now they have an actual fireplace that they built in. So sometimes dreams do come true, Alex.
I don't know where we were.
Well, luckily, I think I have flipped my notes to the other page, so... The big game, they just did their dumb dance. That's what it was. That's how we got on this tangent. Speaking of chants, they're probably like, rough in the crowd. So as the game starts, we get to see some cut-ins of Alex's daydream, where it's like, hey, did you not realize that the warriors were supposed to be the Romans, and the lions are still... They should have, in the description of Disney Plus, they made a reference to David and Goliath.
Yeah, that would have been a great...
But I guess the David story doesn't...
in their, like, robes and, like, their...
No, that would have been too much.
The Roman Empire.
That would have been goofier than Luck of the Irish, that it actually involves leprechaun basketball players. I think it's probably because David doesn't have a connection to the Hanukkah story.
Yeah.
But I think that must have just been some creative copy on the part of Disney Plus or whatever.
Yeah.
So they start off really bad. They're losing by like 14 points, 14, and then that increases later on to 18 points.
Yeah, so, they were down a lot.
And there's also a storm brewing outside. So that makes it extra dramatic.
It's really focusing on like this weird, crappy footage of like the lightning and the thunder.
And the reason that's happening, so while the storm is going on, the mom's tracking down Lamont after a basketball game.
And she played.
But Lamont's van's broken down again, and it's not working. But the mom, she looks up and sees the lightning and says,
like, "Try it again."
So I don't know what that's all about.
Girl, you're fucking crazy, Whitey. And then he tries it, and then it works.
Yeah, so I don't know, miracle of lights or something.
Yeah, miracle.
But one of those lightning strikes
Judah Maccabee
hits the school, so the power goes out.
But so the power's out. There's like these weird lights on.
But then it's like a video game where they have an emergency generator, but it has a fuel-based but it's so low in field. I don't know what the fuck they're doing.
So they're all outside and it's pouring. All these kids in like basketball jerseys.
And the coaches.
Outside, with the coaches, right? The algebra teacher.
Yeah, their bad coach.
He can't figure out right away how much time they have left. I don't know.
But they see it's like, well, however much time is, we'll play until the fuel runs out.
So they're really strict on setting rules.
They
said, whoever is ahead when the generator dies wins, right? This is what we're doing.
Yeah, it's to the point where Alex is like, yeah, that's what we've been saying. And the rival coach is like, well, I'm just establishing the rules for the game. Yes. And it's like, okay, we get it. A dog can play basketball. It's not in the rule book.
Yes.
So now they start back up. The lights come back on. Now they're down by 18 points.
And then they go crazy. They start like really scoring a lot. Steals and turnovers.
But then the coach who was like keeping track of the emergency generator comes in, calls a timeout to tell them, here's how much time is running.
2 minutes and
it's constantly running out. It's like, why didn't you just shout it from the sidelines?
Yeah. So then
the Warriors here, specifically Tyler's like, hey, coach.
Yeah.
So they call a timeout, and you can't run out the clock with timeouts in basketball, right?
No, not when you take a timeout, it stops the clock of the game.
In this occasion,
scenario, yes,
they can because there's a literal ticking clock.
Yeah. So they take the world's longest timeout. You're only supposed to take like, I don't know, like
yeah, there's
20,
2 minutes
seconds.
left, and it's basically at least like 90 seconds or something.
They're just standing there, and everybody's like counting down 29, 28.
So then the
27.
lights flicker out, and then Lamont shows up.
We almost thought Alex was going to make a full court shot. Because he's like, screw these guys. They're running up the clock. We were going to win. Everybody's like all disappointed. We were going to win. We were coming back. We're the best. I thought Alex, and Lucas thought Alex was going to make like a full court shot. Like he takes the basketball ball.
The kinetic energy would fuel the lights.
So 3, 2, 1. Things like die out. And then Lamont Carr steps through I don't know.
He's illuminated in light and he says, what's up, my dogs?
He says, what's up, my dogs? And then
they're like, shit, he is Judah Maccabee.
Yes, because outside, the teacher is watching it tick down. It's run out of its last juice, but it's starting to go again.
Yeah, the generator spins back up.
Spin back up, but there's no fuel. How is it doing it?
And the lights come back up.
Judah.
So, yeah, it's never explained, and I think, we are supposed to look at it as a Hanukkah miracle of the lights. I don't know the story well enough, but I think something about, like, this amount of oil that wasn't supposed to last so long,
for like 8 days
lasts for, I don't know, however long Hanukkah is,
whatever.
like 11 days, or I'm not Jewish, I'm sorry.
Oh, so is that how they decided how long it was? Is based on how long that light burned?
I think so. I think that
makes sense.
Yeah.
I like that.
So then the game's back on, and the action is it's shot or edited so terribly.
Choppy, it's like blurry,
it's supposed to slow down, it's slow-mo, and blurry.
It's bad.
And then there'll be some shots where it goes back to normal speed where like somebody makes a ball in, and then they'll just like quick show that 3 times in a row. So somebody thought it was like a really inspired editing decision, and we've mentioned in some of these other movies that it looks like a bad or just like a 90s or early 2000s rap music video where it does not work, especially because we haven't really seen that much play of basketball. Like in Double Team, we talked about how there was a lot of gameplay, and that was just shot very matter-of-factly, but they add all these flourishes to this, and it just looks like absolute garbage. So the generator starts to run out, and we're getting all these dramatic cuts where the teacher's out there watching the generators like, oh, now it's really going out. And then it's matching up with the clock on the scoreboard, so there's 10 seconds left. And then sparks start to shoot out from the
scoreboard. It was amazing.
Which doesn't really make any sense with how, like, that wouldn't be related to the emergency generator. That's just a wiring issue that they need to look into for the scoreboard.
It was one of the more intense, wild final shots.
Yeah, and we're seeing cuts to the crowd, and they're all, oh, can miracles happen?
The ball was in the air for probably like 3 minutes.
No, it wasn't in the air for 3 minutes.
It was in the air. So at one point...
basically, there has not been a more dramatic moment in a basketball movie since Michael Jordan's arm stretched across a full court miracle in Space Jam.
There was not continuity with this shot, though. At one point, they make it look like it was like from 3, you know, like it was like a deep shot, right? That's what at first
it was not a full court miracle, though.
No. So at first, they made it look like it was from like the 3-point line, which is like far out. They do so many like pans to and back and from the ball, like where it just looks like it's flying from really far. But then there's another cut where it almost looks like the guy's like standing right beneath the rim and just like kind of like threw it up.
Yeah.
So it was weird. Whatever. The ball, it goes around and around and maybe even around again.
You remember a lot more of this. My note is they win. Big surprise.
The ball, it was so much suspense behind it. And the ball drops.
And right as it drops, the lights go out then. And then they're like, fucking Judah Maccabee, bitches! And they're crotch chopping.
Yeah, they're really into it. They're throwing their yarmulkes when they wear them during the game. They throw them off.
And they're like, suck on that, Tyler. Hanukkah miracle, bitch.
Oh.
So then it's a whole happy wrap-up. Lamont's girlfriend and son, they come up. They congratulate him.
Did we even say the mom and the girl showed up?
Not.
It didn't matter.
I maybe did.
So, yes, because then this is like you said, the mother's like, yeah, you can chase your dreams.
Yeah, his mom says, yeah, I will, basketball, whatever, that's cool.
Yeah, so the teacher is making out with the rabbi.
Lamont, I think, gets offered the full-time coaching position.
He must have.
And then takes it and he's still under contract, I think, for like 9 more days or whatever.
Yeah, so now they just live in that condo for free. Or maybe he's able to buy it now with his big Philadelphia teacher's contract.
And then overall, a lot of this, there's a narrator talking about, I don't know, Hanukkah shit. And
was there a narrator?
Yeah, probably how like some of the events of this happens to like the story, the miracle of lights or whatever. But I didn't really listen.
The rear end.
And that was
Full Court Press.
Full Court Miracle. Neither a full court or a miracle, anything in this movie.
Miracles, come on.
Miracles all up in this bitch. So what do you feel about Full Court Miracle?
This is maybe the most movie I ever remembered.
Of like the 18 basketball Disney Channel movies there's been. Why basketball? I mean, we do get weird side sports movies of like bowling and rally racing or whatever, soapbox racing, but this is the third basketball movie.
And we still haven't got their biggest basketball movie yet.
What is that? High School Musical? Yeah.
Yeah. There's
but like that's the thing. It's like this is a musical movie, but we still have basketball.
Something about algorithm. It's got to be like an algorithm where they just figure, okay, these kids are
everybody
of
loves
age. They're playing YMCA basketball, probably. Who knows?
I thought this one was based on a true story. Obviously, it's not all this Judah Maccabee stuff. It was not based on a true story.
Yeah.
But like Double Teamed was. So maybe it's just like, I mean, this is a few years after when Michael Jordan would have retired. Yeah. But obviously, the late 90s, basketball was at its peak of popularity. So maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. That would make sense.
There's other sports, and crazy thing to put out there, you could also just not make sports movies. So we haven't gotten any other Christmas movies, and we won't for a while. But this, I mean, kind of fills that space because this is the last movie of 2003. So I think it was released around whenever Hanukkah was that year.
That would
Since
make sense.
Hanukkah is obviously based on a lunar calendar, so it shifts around in the year. End of 2003, we're moving into 2004. And I'm sure there's a sports movie, but I didn't see one that really popped out. But we're cranking through them. We're keeping to our schedule. But I'm going to say we got more like Full Court Miracle and Cheetah Girls. Maybe we're gonna take a 3-week break sometime.
You didn't like this movie?
No. So this movie, again, I feel bad because of that one commenter being like, "When are you going to do this?" And I said like, check back in like a year, half a year or something. But it's fine. It's perfectly serviceable. We've talked about this before where we are not the target demographic for this because we're not young Jewish youth where we don't always get representation or they don't always get representation, especially for like holiday themed movies, which this isn't like super Hanukkah focused, but there's not like Hanukkah movies really.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was good that they got some representation.
Yeah. So like,
there's nothing wrong with it.
But otherwise it's a very by the numbers kind of underdog sports movie.
Yeah.
Getting the coach, the kind of expected drama, third act, oh no, Lamont's leaving us and we win the big games. So it plays it safe with a lot of it. So
yeah.
Jacob was talking about how he thought the crazy, like sparking dramatic shot was better than the Cheetah Girls ending, which I would disagree. But I would say this movie is better than the Cheetah Girls
as a whole.
But as like This is one of those situations where this is a movie where it's just fine. It's not a good DCOM necessarily. It's not a so bad it's good DCOM like the Cheetah Girls ending was. Yeah. It's just kind of blah.
Yeah.
Which I think we still had a fun enough episode. Sometimes I always worry about Johnny Tsunami, where that movie just like sapped my energy, and I just felt like we had a really... But that was one of our earlier episodes too. We're professionals enough that we can still...
One. Maybe I brought it up.
Yeah, well, we keep finding ways to bring some past stories to light. We got Lucas in the talent show, and send in weird tapes to kids in high school.
I once did a hook shot in high school basketball. Yeah, made it.
I feel like I once had the ball bounce off the backboard and hit me in the face.
Probably. I feel like we've all been there.
If you want to write into us about how you were an impressionable youth, a Jewish youth in 2003, and how Full Court Miracle meant the most in the world to you, and it was your Hanukkah miracle that year.
We're talking to you, commenter.
Yeah, who probably is no longer listening. Write us at awholenewpod@gmail.com, or you can comment on this
video.
If you're watching this on YouTube, you're hearing it right now. Comment on this video, comment, subscribe to us.
If you're not on our YouTube, if you're listening to this on Spotify or where have you.
Yeah, we're also on
every video. We only have 50.
Apple Podcasts, rate us, review us on there.
Everywhere.
If we haven't got a new review in a while, but if you put one up there, we'll read it on here, good or bad, hopefully good. Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify. We've had, for whatever reason, January's almost like twice as many downloads we've had. Well, this will actually probably come out February 1st, but January, decent numbers for us. Don't really know why. Including for the Jenny Project. And my only theory is I called out Jacob during the Even Stevens movie episode to challenge him, is this better than the Jenny Project or not? Because he was like, I love everything. Everything's great. Which was not a very good 2021 attitude.
People went back and had to listen.
And I mentioned the Jenny Project, so now maybe I'll just have to throw out random episodes and say hey,
don't look under the bed.
Well, that's a classic, but I mentioned it earlier. A whole Ring of Endless Light. Yeah. Listen to a Ring of Endless Light. That's a good episode. That's a goofy movie.
Bright lights and stuff.
That's the episode where Jacob starts by taking the reins, and by the end of the movie, I'm still kind of overpowering.
He stole them away.
Yeah, we've got a growing catalog now. We're approaching 50 episodes, so
we're at over 150 subs.
We have enough now where it's just like, remember this episode? That's a classic. Just throw it back there.
Yeah.
Listen to an episode a week,
or more.
You almost get to the end of the year.
You could re-listen to all of our episodes if you wanted to.
That's what we assume Dustin does. Just
every week.
He doesn't know other podcasts exist. He doesn't know music exists. He only knows the song for our podcast intro and outro, and any weird things I pull from the movies.
But go through all of our videos. We got to get those likes up. Let's see if we can get double digits on every YouTube video.
Definitely have double digits dislikes on some videos.
That's true. So go show some love. We're at 154 subscribers on YouTube and 88,000 views. Let's get those numbers up. Let's get that 100K by the end of February.
Yeah, I want YouTube to send me that play button. I think we're pretty close, right?
I only need 100 million more.
All right. We're leaving Elise on a good note. I thought this movie was going to be... Good. I was a little unenergetic. And
I don't know what that means.
Shit!
Oh.
That's the other thing I forgot to bring up.
Oh.
That's a great way to finish this episode. We'll have to talk about it next time, but...
Cliffhanger.
I watched the live-action Scooby-Doo movie.
Oh!
What the heck is it?
Not what. Who? And he's my dad. Look, Rory, it's too hot down here. If I don't get him up to the mountains, I'm gonna lose him.
He does look pretty bad.
Come on. You know what it's like not to have a dad.
It sucks. It sucks big time. All right. Snow Dad's better than no dad. Let's go.